This video is brought to you by Mubi. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/docinema. About a month after Oppenheimer's Trinity test in 1945, film manufacturer Kodak, located 3,000 miles away from the test site, started receiving complaints from customers that their film was foggy, and small black dots were showing up all over the film. Nobody knew about the nuclear tests at the time, but researchers at Kodak discovered that the spots on this highly sensitive material were caused by radiation. And so Kodak accidentally became the first people to know about the secret tests of the American government. Fast forward 80 years and the story comes full circle, because for Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan used large format black and white film, custom made by the factory of Kodak. These days, not many movies are shot on analog film anymore, because of the rise of digital cameras, and because film is very fragile material. It can get scratched easily, and it's not that easy to transport either. The original Oppenheimer film roll weighs a whopping 272 kilos and is almost 18 kilometers long.
The threat to film came when digital became proscriptive, when it basically started to say, this is instead of film.
However, there are a few filmmakers out there who still to this day swear by the analog format. Christopher Nolan being one of them, who since the beginning of his career has shot all of his movies on analog film. The same goes for Quentin Tarantino, who is a true advocate for using film and will never shoot a movie on digital.
It does nothing for me. I mean, I actually think I'm getting when I go to a movie and I realize it's either been shot on digital or being projected in digital.
So why is it that these filmmakers are still choosing to shoot on this quote-unquote older format? Does that mean that analog is still better than digital? Well, in a way, yeah. This is a single frame from Oppenheimer, and even though it is shot on analog film, it has a resolution of roughly 18K. To give an indication of how large this image actually is, this is your standard 8mm film roll, often used for old home videos. Then there is 60mm used for many music videos, 35mm, which is like the Big Mac, the go-to standard for almost every cinema classic. Then we have regular 70mm, which Tarantino's The Hateful Eight was shot on. And lastly, there is 70mm Imax, used for the Oppenheimer, the largest analog film format in existence. Hence the name Imax, meaning image maximum.
I mean, an IMAX film frame, it doesn't have an equivalent digital resolution because it's an analog format with a random grain structure, but it would be about 18K minimum or something.
But even though size does matter, bigger is not always better. Because the major disadvantage is that IMAX cameras are huge, heavy and noisy. This is what an IMAX camera sounds like. In this interview, fellow Dutchman and cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytema explained that most of the time they had to record dialogue on a different camera so that you can hear the dialogue and then shoot the same take again on IMAX and add the sound from the other take.
To see if Chris could probably salvage the sound of it and put it in a film.
On top of that, for actors it can also be quite daunting to hear that sound when they start recording. You'll literally hear the money rolling through the camera and every take matters even more. And lastly, the filming process is very different from digital as well. You can't just shoot for 20 minutes straight like with digital, because with IMAX you have to reload a new roll every 3 minutes. For some actors that's actually a good thing. There's the story of Robert Downey Jr. protesting on the set of David Fincher, who was one of the first directors to shoot on digital. And so because the takes were too long, he collected jars of pee and put them on the set because he wanted his breaks back.
Just like over in the corner and stuff, just he would go off and he would pee and then he'd bring it back, and it was like form of protest.
But why does Nolan not just go digital? Digital is more compact, silent, lightweight and cheaper, and the resolution can still get up to a modest 6K. Well, that's because there's also something else going on here when looking at the grander scheme of things, and it has something to do with how we view our movies. When I started this channel, I made a poll about whether you would prefer to watch a movie at home or in the cinema, and out of 100,000 people, only 55% said in the cinema, and the other 45% would rather watch a movie at home. This goes to show how the movie landscape has undergone a major change since the rise of digital. When DVDs, Blu-rays and streaming services started to become more and more popular, a lot of people actually preferred staying at home instead of going to the cinema. Combine that with the large amounts of post-production, rise of animation and CGI in movies, some film critics, including Martin Scorsese, have stated that this is not cinema anymore, but more like painting with a PC, and have become very wary of productions like Marvel movies.
Theme park films, they're new art form. It's something different from films that are shown normally in theaters.
But that's where Christopher Nolan steps in, because Nolan refrains from using CGI and green screens. In an age where it has become so easy to do everything in post-production, Nolan performs all his stunts in camera, meaning doing stuff for real to bring back the spectacle.
You have to just bring it down to, well, it's so much more fun to do it. It's fun for the actors, it's fun for me. There's nothing more dispiriting than when you turn up to work and there's just a green screen with a couple of actors in front of it. It's really, the magic's not there. So trying to do these things for real, trying to use real locations. I've always preferred real locations to sets for the same reason. There's a feeling of reality, there's a feeling of being somewhere that matters. You know, I avail myself of all the latest digital effects technology, absolutely, but we try and always achieve what we can in camera and have as good a time as possible doing it.
And he does this all while filming on the purest form of cinema, the film roll.
I think there's a very real danger with watering down the theatrical experience, watering down the experience of what a film is, that organic, larger-than-life sort of quality that a great film print has.
But cinematographer Roger Deakins disagrees, and he is not the least of them all. He's known for shooting Blade Runner 2049, 1917, No Country for Old Men, Shawshank Redemption, you name it, and this man has shot the movie. And he actually prefers digital cameras over film.
It's not because I can do it digitally and not because it's easier, it's because it gives me more options. It's a bigger palette really than I feel I can get from film.
According to Deakins, it's more about the man behind the camera. There's always new changes to technology. Cameramen adjust themselves to it. New material simply means new challenges.
They're all tools, you know. It depends on the project. You choose a different camera like you used to choose a different film stock.
For example, a movie like 1917, shot in a few very long takes, would not have been possible without digital, because you would have had to reload the film rolls constantly. To add on to that, digital cameras have also paved the way for many new filmmakers.
The fact that a filmmaker, a young filmmaker, can actually now just buy a cell phone. You don't even need that much of a crew, but come up with an interesting story and get some interesting actors or not, and put something together. They can actually make a movie, and that film can go on the film festival circuit, and they can be legit. They can be real. You know, back in my day, you at least needed 16 millimeter to do something like that, which was a Mount Everest most of us couldn't climb. Now, why an established filmmaker would shoot on digital, I have no idea.
So, to come back to my first question.
Why does Christopher Nolan
We're in the whys.
shoot on film?
Is it ridiculous for me to give a serious answer? Well, you're saying that, but that's
Give
why I
the
shoot
people-
film.
Give the people what they want.
Well, in terms of aesthetics, it's similar to why music lovers use vinyl. There simply is nothing like it out there. Film is also a physical medium, so the camera actually burns light from the real world onto the film.
Film shows you the world kind of the way your eye sees it.
What Nolan means by that is that film doesn't have digital artificial colors with bit rates and pixels, but more natural colors with grain and imperfections like our eyes. Combine that with the fact that 70mm Imax is the largest format in existence, it becomes a unique cinematic experience. To see film as film was intended.
It's really not about film versus digital. It's about preserving this medium for future generations of filmmaking to be able to use it.
For Nolan, it's not a matter of money. It's about keeping film and the knowledge of film alive. As he famously said, we'll either use it or lose it.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
But in the end, does it really matter? Because most people just go to the cinema and don't care about the technology. But here's the thing, what if there is no cinema? You see, cinemas offer something that streaming platforms do not have, those magical larger-than-life experiences. And if there is no analog film anymore, that would essentially mean a part of cinema's magic is also lost.
Everyone thinks that when you're filming something on film, that you're recording movement. You're not recording movement. You are just taking a series of still pictures. But when shown at 24 frames a second through a light bulb, it creates the illusion of movement. So thus, as opposed to a recording device, when you're watching a movie, a film print, you are watching an illusion. And to me, that illusion is connected to the magic of movies.
There's a spirit of optimism. There's a spirit of film having a wonderful future and great potential. And there's a lot of excitement around it, a lot of excitement from filmmakers and exhibitors and everybody else in terms of
continuing to give audiences a reason to leave their homes and come together in a movie theater to experience a story.
The world will remember this day.
So, if you want to watch more classics and modern cinema shot on analog film, definitely check out The Wind That Shakes the Barley starring Cillian Murphy, After Sun, and Once Upon a Time in America, which are currently streaming on Mubi. Not only in my country, the Netherlands, but in many other countries. Mubi is a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema, a place to discover ambitious new films and singular voices, from iconic directors to emerging auteurs. And the best thing is that they are all carefully handpicked by Mubi curators, streaming anytime, anywhere.
I work anytime, anywhere. We work Jewish holidays? Anytime, anywhere.
You can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/docinema. That's mubi.com/docinema for an entire month of great cinema for free.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.